I realized is when I get a download, talk about it. Don't wait and tell a bunch of friends and tell family or anybody that you consider close to you, because your download could be altered, and it comes from your true self, the person that's under the ego. And I realized that when I have something else in front of me, like when I'm driving or doing delivery, my next decisions in life, and today I just wanted to talk about how being anxious will hurt you in the end, or could ruin you, because that is an attachment style that has to be reverted into being a secure, and there's an avoidant attachment style, and there's disorganized. But I guess you can call me anxious avoidant or disorganized. And being anxious, and I want to break this down, is not going to help you in the end, because figuring out where you get the anxious feelings from, and I'm gonna explain what it is and tell a mini story of my feelings on it. But being anxious a lot of the times comes from people pleasing and having to prove yourself to somebody. And if you go back into your childhood and really pinpoint the root of why you feel the need to please everyone that's around you, it comes from the way your parents set you up, in a way how you had to give to them. And most of the time when you're anxious, you read the room very well. So if somebody is unhappy, you can usually tell by the way they move their arm to the side or they turn their body away from you. But sometimes you don't have to be analytical to figure out why or what the reason is, or decipher in your mind, because that's a lot of energy right then and there. And a lot of these descriptions I'm going to give is a guidance to being more calm and figuring out why do I do these things. But an example of being anxious could also be meeting a new friend. And this is going to tie into one of my stories. Meeting a new friend and feeling the need to prove yourself to them that you are a good person. And knowing how the world is not a good place, you have to vet your friends. So if you have an anxious side to you, when you meet people, you get excited. You're like this puppy dog that's just ready to get to know the world, and you have just no care in the world what's going to happen, or you just think, you feel everybody has their best intentions for you. It will get you in a bind. And I came for this podcast today to just explain basically like just where it's coming from and why you're doing it, and not so much how to diminish it, just like what it is, but you putting yourself in a position where you are always the person who can be heavily relied on, and that's just the next step that comes from being very anxious. And you don't want to train people, and people are like dogs, mostly men, but I think when I make friends, I think it's still like dating. You still have to vet. You still have to figure out this person deserves to be in your life. Because I know sometimes we could get the misconception when I make a friend, oh, somebody's just interested in me. They want to be around me. They just enjoy my vibe. They enjoy who I am. No, sometimes people have bad intentions. And most of the time, not even sometimes. And that's the way you're going to vet people, is when you stop being anxious and realize that I give a lot to these people. And one thing that hurts me from being an anxious avoidant, especially being anxious in the beginning, is what comes after you know, okay, this person took advantage of me. And I didn't really get anything out of it. It's different when you end a friendship or a relationship and you got something out of it. It's a way different playing field versus I'm the one who lost. I didn't get money. I just left with terrible decline mental health and negative money in my bank account, and my empathy was used against me in a way. So going forward, it's not going to really help you in the end when you're anxious and you're trying to show everyone you're just such a good person and you're so nice, and going in, even into the workplace, you having to show everyone that I come in here with a big smile on my face and I'm just so approachable. It's not going to work out for you, because people can smell a person that has low self-esteem or a people pleaser, and you're only going to learn through the lessons. You're not going to learn through somebody really telling you, because that's how I had to learn, was going through it. And then I hopped on the podcast and I'm like, oh, that sounds like my story. That sounds very familiar. Oh, I need to get on here and talk about things like this, because this happened to me. And only thing that works out for me in the end is when my avoidant attachment came into play. And a lot of the things where I'm like, wow, this person's taking advantage of me. And eventually it creeps up and you're like, wow, let me start acting avoidant. And then you start seeing true colors. You start really seeing how people feel about you, how people are going to act around you. But it's not a stable attachment style either way. If you are anxious or avoidant, you should feel when somebody is in your presence, you should feel calm. You should feel this person has an even give and take relationship with me. I shouldn't have to prove to anyone that I'm a certain way. You should just feel that I'm a certain way. And they can even look at your actions just from being around you, and they should be vetting you too. That's very important to even see if they're vetting you. Because if you just jump into my life for no reason, you just all of a sudden want to do things with me, you don't know me, it's just sudden shift, I'm just going to assume that you're using me. It takes friendships and bonds take time, relationships take time. And quick story time is when I had a particular friend, and I do believe that I talked about this in previous videos, but I don't know, I feel like this situation, was such a learning lesson, and it was so pivotal for me that I have to share. And I've always been a one-on-one person. I've never been a group person. Check out my old video about why I don't hang in groups or packs. And you don't individually get to know the person for who they are. If you're just, boom, you're hanging out with them. It's 10 people around. You get lost. None of the personalities, the characteristics, you don't even know if you like this person. You don't even ask yourself. And I feel like that's what comes with being anxious. You don't even ask yourself, do I like this person? Are they giving me what I need? Do I even enjoy being around them? Do I feel like I'm connecting with this person? Do we even share anything? And you can't get lost. You have to ask those questions, because you need to know who you are. And if you don't even start with making your own personal identity and what you want, then how can you ask the question for what you want out of another person to even be closely connected with them? But I had a friend a while ago, I want to say like it's going on 2 years, when we first started talking. And when we started talking, I live in the burbs, so this area you need to have a car. It's no joke being around here. If you want to go to the store, you need to have a car. It's not the middle of nowhere, but it's still very close to the city. I think it's called like a metropolitan area. I think that's what you call it. But you need a car to get around, to navigate, to do things you like, or you will fall into a heavy depression. That's what I noticed in my research from a lot of women who don't drive or who don't have those things. They're either going to use and get around, or they're going to be sitting there and be really upset because you're not going to be able to cater to any of the things you want to do. You can't go to events, you can't go to a library, you can't express yourself or be an individual. So when we started being friends, it wasn't immediate. It took time, and she kind of orbited me. And I actually met her online. I do advocate for making friends online, but being very cautious. But she did orbit me for, I want to say, 6 months. And watch out for those people who orbit you but don't have conversations with you, and then come out the blue with plans. And I think she was just trying to do, in a way, a destiny swap. She was just watching the things that I was doing. She was heavily calculated. And I'm like a naturally creative person. I'm a lone wolf, so I would do things on myself, by myself, and I don't have a problem. I don't need a bunch of people around me, and I enjoy it. Sometimes you get in your little moments like, oh, I could go out, party, do this, but like it goes away after a while. Like, it's not something I need to do. I'd rather create and divest with my career than go drink, party, and spend money and be broke. Because at the end of the day, the girl that I'm mentioning, she didn't drive. So either any place that we're gonna go, you need a car. So if you want to do these things, you want to go party, you want to go to a club, you want to go, and I'm completely fine with that. But on my end of the scale, I feel like what I did is I didn't clearly communicate to myself and to the other person that you don't have a mode of transportation. I can't always be available for you, and being honest and leaving it there at that. But the avenue that I took was, we would go out, we would hang out, and mostly it was just like drinking, catching up, but I started to like realize like about like her not having like her own sense of self. That's separate. But with my anxiousness is like, I would like prove in a way like, oh, we can be really good friends, like I'm gonna be there for you if you need a helping hand, I'm here. And one of those things I had to like realize, she was very, very, very pivotal moment I've had a learning lesson, is I don't want y'all to rely on me. That's the thing. I want people to think, oh, it's very hard to access her. She has a really busy life. And I gave her that entry into my life. She came over my house a couple of times. I gave her that entry into my life, like where you can always be around me. You can always have access to me. And that was kind of the perception I gave. And like I said, people are like dogs. You have to train them. So she's getting trained to the point where, okay, if I need somebody, she's the girl that I'm going to hit up. Had to take her to the hospital once. And I'm not really a nitpicky person or anything, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. So I had a situation where I knew I was becoming more avoidant is when I had a lot of stuff going on. I had to move out. And it was just really in this moment, it was about me more, because I was like I was literally in a spiritual warfare. I had many more other things going on than just that. But she had to go pick up, she had a girl that was taking her to school every time they went, because I guess they had like linked up classes or whatever. Anyways, that was a question I had in my mind, because if you have this girl take you to school, how are you going to get to school? And I wouldn't really ask or question, because that's not my life. I don't really need to embark in her privacy. But my thing is, her friend stopped taking her. Her dad came home and I guess he took the car back, whatever situation they had, she couldn't take her. Then she takes all her problems and puts it on me, because that's how I train her. If you need something, hit me up, let me know. No, I'm not sure. I'm not in a position to help whenever you need help. But this is when I started realizing, especially from information I was gathering from people over me, I'm let me leave her alone. She was just telling me, but she wasn't directly asking me I need you, can you take me to school? She just said whining, and I do not like whiners. If you have no action plan, if we're not talking about plans, I cannot stand whiners. And that's one of my biggest things, is when you're anxious, people will whine and complain and cry and oh my God, my life and da 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 da, and I want to go here and da da da, because they want you to do something about it. And I'm a Sagittarius sun, and we're known for being mother. Only reason why I say that is because Nicki Minaj is known for being mother, and I know a lot of Saggies that are like that, and then it's just no, we gotta quit it. It's this new year, we can't come in here like this. And I ain't nobody mother. I need to be the one that needs to be saved now. I'm done taking care of everyone. And she was kind of trained to the point where she just thought I was gonna hop, skip, and as soon as I didn't reciprocate, the one time I didn't reciprocate, and this is why I said you can't be anxious, because it's going to hurt you in the end, she completely cut herself off from me for an entire week. And usually, if we're close proximity, you're hanging out, of course y'all going probably every once in a while, every other day, hey, what's going on? And it just wasn't normal. I'm not saying you can't stop talking, do what you gotta do, we're busy. But once I didn't give her, I gave her a car lot. I told her there's some cheap cars. And then actually around the time, I think I was trying to sell one of my cars that I had, and I had I was pending, let her know it may be the opportunity if you want something cheap. But I don't know, there's car lots, there's Lyft, there's bus, there's so many that she's trying to get me to figure out what's the best way. And I'm I don't know what to do for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mother. I'm not your auntie. She has family around. She had cousins, and she was from a different country, so I give her that. But she did have family around that she didn't really let me on until later. But she had cousins around. Why? Guys at that. I'm not a man. I'm not helping you. I'm just your friend. And she wasn't even a best friend at that. We didn't even declare that. And I don't even think we really ever declared that, really, in words specifically. But what I'm getting to is her, I don't even want to say it's energy. It was just actions. It was obvious you're upset because I'm not the one that's going to be taken advantage of. And me being anxious avoidant, I have lost so many friends. So many relationships went sour because I start to realize I'm getting used. These people are taking advantage of me. These people are not reciprocating. And it's spiritual warfare out here. And so I had to reach out to another friend that she was close with. Is she okay? Because I'm thinking like something happened to her, because it's very unusual. Like, we'll probably talk like once every 3 days. Like, she just disappeared.